The throne room of the Vthari Empire stretched across a space so vast that its far walls disappeared into atmospheric haze. Pillars of polished metal rose toward a ceiling that simulated an eternal night sky, each of the 100,000 lights representing a conquered world. At the center of this architectural display of dominance sat the throne itself, carved from a single asteroid core, its surface etched with the names of every species brought under Vthari control. Emperor Xylos occupied that throne with the comfortable weight of absolute authority. His form was tall, elongated, with 4 arms that rested on the armrests and skin that shifted between shades of deep crimson and burnished gold as his mood changed. Today, his coloring leaned toward the darker end of the spectrum. The Galactic Senate chamber below him held representatives from over 100 subject species. They stood in tiered rings, their postures ranging from fearful deference to barely concealed hatred. Xylos had seen every expression in his 1,000-year reign. He had broken empires, crushed rebellions, and reduced civilizations to ash. The fear in those eyes was his reward. "The agenda item concerning the Sol system," Xylos announced, his voice amplified by the chamber's acoustics to reach every corner. "The species designation, Terran, classified as primitive, Class D threat level." A murmur rippled through the assembly. The Terrans had been a minor nuisance for nearly 2 decades. Their colonization efforts had expanded beyond their home system, encroaching on territory the Vthari had marked for future expansion. Minor skirmishes had occurred, nothing of consequence. "Primitive is perhaps too generous," said Admiral Vex, commander of the Imperial fleet. His form was bulkier than the Emperor's, with armored plates covering his shoulders and a voice that carried mechanical undertones from a throat injury sustained in a long-ago campaign. "Their vessels use fusion propulsion. Their weapons are kinetic-based. They have no shielding technology worth mentioning. They are children playing with fire." Laughter echoed from several of the tiered rings. The species who laughed were the ones who had aligned themselves most closely with Vthari interests, the ones who had traded their independence for privilege. They laughed because they knew what was coming. "The border colony designated New Hope," Admiral Vex continued, "resisted our expansion fleet. They destroyed 3 of our scout vessels before being overwhelmed. The survivors were processed." "Processed?" Xylos repeated, his tone carrying no judgment. He knew what that word meant. The Vthari did not take prisoners in the traditional sense. They extracted genetic material, tested biological vulnerabilities, and disposed of the remains. It was efficient. It was the way things had always been done. "The Terran government has issued formal protests through diplomatic channels," said Minister Tsar, who handled interstellar relations. His species were bird-like, with feathered crests that flattened against their skulls when they were nervous. "They demand the return of their citizens and reparations for the destroyed vessels." The chamber erupted in laughter again. This time, even some of the more reluctant species joined in. The idea of a primitive species making demands of the Vthari Empire was absurd. It was like an insect complaining about a boot. Xylos allowed the laughter to continue for a moment before raising one hand. The chamber fell silent instantly. The power to command such obedience never grew old. "Minister Tsar, what is the Terran military capacity?" "Negligible, Emperor. Their fleet consists of perhaps 200 vessels of various sizes. Their largest warship would be considered a patrol craft by our standards. Their ground forces are equipped with projectile weapons that our personal shields can easily deflect. They pose no strategic threat." "And their leadership?" "A fractured council of nations, constantly bickering. They cannot agree on anything. Their unity is a myth." Xylos nodded slowly. He had heard this assessment before. The Terrans had been observed for decades, their progress monitored with idle curiosity. They had achieved spaceflight, colonized their system's outer planets, and ventured into the interstellar void. But they had done so slowly, cautiously, with the fear of species that had never encountered a superior civilization. Until now. We will issue a decree, Xylos announced. The Terran homeworld will be reduced to an uninhabitable state. The species will be classified as extinct. Their genetic material will be cataloged and stored for future study. Any Terran colonies beyond their system will be hunted down and similarly processed. The chamber accepted this pronouncement with the usual solemnity. This was how the Vthari Empire operated. They did not negotiate with lesser species. They did not offer terms. They simply imposed their will upon the galaxy. At this time, Admiral Vex said, stepping forward, I request permission to lead the expedition personally. The Terrans have destroyed 3 of our vessels. I wish to oversee their response. Xylos considered the request. Admiral Vex was competent if brutal. His methods were efficient. The expedition would be swift and thorough. Permission granted, Xylos said. Assemble the 6th Fleet. Depart within the cycle. I want to see the Terran sun extinguished before the next gathering of this assembly. The chamber erupted in applause. Many of the species present had been conquered by the Vthari. They knew that resistance was futile. The Terrans would learn this lesson the hard way. It was the way of the galaxy. Xylos allowed himself a small measure of satisfaction. Another species eliminated. Another world added to the catalog of conquest. His legacy would be one of order, of stability, of the natural hierarchy that placed the Vthari at the top. Then the chamber's lighting changed. The simulated night sky flickered. The lights representing conquered worlds dimmed and then returned to full brightness. The holographic displays that lined the walls, which showed the status of Imperial territories, began to glitch and scramble. Admiral Vex's armored form tensed. What is this? The sensors were reporting an anomaly. Something had appeared in the system. Something massive. Something that the Imperial detection grid had not seen until the moment it materialized. Minister Tsar's crest flattened completely against his skull. Emperor, we have an unknown contact. It appeared from nothing. The sensors are unable to determine its point of origin. Appeared from nothing. Xylos leaned forward on his throne. That is impossible. Our sensors can detect any cloaked vessel in the galaxy. No known technology can evade our detection grid. Emperor, Admiral Vex said, his mechanical voice carrying a rare note of uncertainty. The unknown vessel is huge, larger than anything in our fleet, larger than anything we have encountered. Show me. The holographic display at the center of the chamber flickered to life, and the throne room of 1,000 worlds went silent. The vessel that materialized on the display was unlike anything the Vthari had ever seen. It was vast, angular, constructed from materials that did not match any known classification. Its hull was scarred with the marks of age and conflict. Weapons ports covered every surface, ports that the Vthari sensors could not identify or classify. The ship seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, creating an optical illusion of emptiness around its edges. By the ancestors, whispered a senator from the outer rings. What is that? The vessel was still moving, still approaching. It had emerged from some form of cloaking technology that the Vthari had never encountered, a technology that should not exist, a technology that primitive Terrans could not possibly possess. Admiral Vex's armored form was trembling. His voice, when it came, was barely a whisper. Emperor, I am reading. Human life signs on that vessel. It is a Terran vessel. The silence in the throne room was absolute. The laughter was gone. The arrogance was gone. The certainty was gone. In its place was something the Vthari had not felt in generations. Fear. The silence before thunder. Emperor Xylos rose from his throne, his 4 arms extended, fingers curling into fists. The crimson of his skin deepened to a shade that bordered on purple, a sign of extreme agitation that his court had never witnessed in their lifetimes. "Explain this," he commanded, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. "Explain how a primitive species could develop technology that our sensors cannot penetrate. Explain how a Terran vessel of this size could exist without our knowledge." Admiral Vex's mouth opened and closed, for the first time in his career. Words failed him. His mechanical voice sputtered, coughed, and produced nothing coherent. Minister Tsar was frantically consulting his data tablet, his feathered hands trembling. "Emperor, I am receiving reports from the Perimeter Defense Network. The vessel did not arrive through any known method of FTL travel. It simply existed. Our sensors recorded its emergence, but they cannot explain the mechanism. Can we destroy it?" The question hung in the air. Around the chamber, advisors and military officers exchanged glances. None of them wanted to admit the obvious truth. Admiral Vex finally found his voice. "Emperor, the vessel is equipped with weapons technology we cannot identify. Its power signature is immense. I cannot guarantee that our fleet could destroy it before it destroyed us." "You cannot guarantee." Xylos's voice rose to a near shout. "I have given you command of the greatest fleet in the galaxy. I have given you the resources to conquer worlds, and you cannot guarantee the destruction of one vessel." "The vessel is not alone," Admiral Vex said quietly. The holographic display shifted. More contacts were appearing on the sensors, dozens of them, hundreds of them, each one emerging from the same cloak that had hidden the first vessel, each one massive, each one armed with technologies that the Vthari did not understand. The throne room's silence deepened. The species in the tiered rings watched the display with expressions ranging from terror to horrified fascination. They had come to witness the execution of a primitive species. Instead, they were witnessing something else entirely. "It's a fleet," whispered a senator from the outer rings. "They have a fleet." The vessels continued to emerge. They arranged themselves in a formation that the Vthari tactical computers could not predict. The sensors identified them as Terran in origin, but the design was unlike anything in the Imperial database. These were not the crude vessels that the Vthari had encountered at the New Hope colony. These were instruments of war, built by a species that understood war on a level that the Vthari had never imagined. "The weapons," Admiral Vex said, his voice cracking. "Emperor, I am reading weapons signatures that match nothing in our records. They have weapons that do not exist in our understanding of physics." "Those weapons are trained on us," Minister Tsar observed. "All of them, every single vessel. The targeting systems are locked onto the Imperial Palace, the throne room, us." Xylos felt something he had not experienced in centuries: vulnerability. He had sat on this throne for over 1,000 years, watching species rise and fall, watching empires crumble and rebuild. He had never felt threatened. He had never felt afraid. Now he understood why the Terrans had not protested more strongly, why their diplomatic channels had been so ineffective, why they had seemed so weak and divided. They had been hiding. Not because they were afraid, because they were preparing. "What do they want?" Xylos asked, and he hated the weakness in his own voice. "What is their objective?" The holographic display shifted again. The lead vessel, the one that had emerged first, was transmitting a communication request. It was a simple request, one that the Vthari received from countless species seeking audience with the Emperor. But this request came from a species that had just revealed a fleet of warships that outmatched anything in the Imperial arsenal. "Accept the transmission," Xylos commanded. "Show me what they have to say." The holographic display flickered and then a face appeared. It was human, female, older than most humans that the Vthari had encountered. Gray-streaked hair pulled back in a tight bun, eyes that held no fear, no uncertainty, no hint of submission. The eyes were the most disturbing part. They looked at the throne room with the calm assessment of a predator evaluating prey. "I am Captain Elena Voss of the Terran vessel Resolute," the woman said. Her voice was calm, measured, carrying across the throne room speakers. "I am speaking on behalf of the United Human Worlds." The humans had not even formed a single government. They had, in the Vthari intelligence reports, been described as hopelessly divided. Yet here was a woman speaking with authority, representing all of them. "You are addressing the Emperor of the Vthari Empire," Minister Tsar said, stepping forward. His voice carried the weight of protocol and tradition. "You will show proper respect." Captain Voss's eyes shifted to Minister Tsar. Something flickered in them, something that looked almost like amusement. "Respect," she repeated. "We have watched your empire for a long time, Minister. We have seen what you do to species that show you respect. We have seen what happens to those who bow to your authority." She paused and the silence stretched. 72 years ago," she continued, "your exploration fleet encountered a human colony on the edge of our territory. The colony was peaceful. They had no weapons. They offered food and water to your scouts. They showed you respect." Xylos remembered that incident. It had been a minor note in the Imperial records, one of thousands of similar encounters. "Your scouts murdered them," Captain Voss said, and the calm in her voice was gone. It was replaced by something colder, something that cut through the throne room's atmosphere like a blade. "They murdered them and took their genetic material for study. They recorded the entire operation for your archives." The species in the tiered rings shifted uncomfortably. Many of them had their own such stories. 72 years, Captain Voss repeated. "That is how long we have been preparing. That is how long we have been watching your empire. You thought we were divided. You thought we were weak. You thought we were easy prey." She paused again, and this time the silence was absolute. "You were wrong." The holographic display split, showing images from across the empire. Vthari outposts being destroyed, supply depots reduced to rubble, shipyards burning in the void of space. "While you were preparing to annihilate our homeworld," Captain Voss said, "we were dismantling your empire. Every military installation within 1,000 light-years has been destroyed. Your fleets are scattered. Your command structure is in chaos. Your communications are jammed." Minister Tsar's feathers were standing straight up in terror. "That is impossible. Our outposts are heavily defended. Our defenses are. They are." "They were compromised," Captain Voss said, "by humans who infiltrated your supply chains decades ago, by humans who learned your weaknesses and waited for the right moment to exploit them." She leaned forward, and the camera zoomed in on her face. The eyes that looked out from the display were not those of a primitive species seeking mercy. They were the eyes of a species that had come to destroy. "We are not here to negotiate," she said. "We are here to deliver terms. And if those terms are refused, we are here to show you what happens when you mistake patience for weakness." The holographic display shifted to show the Resolute's weapons ports. They were glowing with a terrible light, a light that the Vthari sensors could not analyze but could clearly identify as lethal. "You have 1 hour, Captain Voss said. 1 hour to decide whether your empire survives." The transmission ended. The face of the human captain vanished, replaced by the image of the Resolute and its fleet, their weapons locked onto the Imperial palace. The throne room erupted into chaos. One voice from the void. The chaos in the throne room was absolute. Senators shouted over each other, their voices layering into an unintelligible roar. Military advisors scrambled to their terminals, frantically trying to confirm or deny the humans' claims. The species that had laughed at humanity's supposed weakness now showed their true colors: panic, fear, and desperate calculations about how to survive what was coming. Emperor Xylos stood motionless at the center of the storm. His skin had shifted to a pale crimson, almost white, the color of shock. His 4 arms hung at his sides, his fingers twitching with the effort of restraining his fury. "Silence," he said, and the word carried enough force to cut through the noise. The chamber fell quiet immediately. "Admiral Vex, confirm the humans' claims." Admiral Vex was already receiving reports from across the Empire. His mechanical voice, when it came, was hollow with disbelief. "Emperor, I am receiving distress signals from 19 military installations. The broadcasts they are fragmenting. The installations are going dark." 19. 34. "Emperor, the numbers are increasing. I am receiving reports from outposts that the humans are hitting everywhere simultaneously. They have somehow coordinated an attack across 1,000 light-years of space." Minister Tsar's data tablet slipped from his trembling fingers. He caught it before it fell, but his hands were shaking too badly to operate it. "This is impossible. The humans do not have FTL communication technology that would allow such coordination. They do not have the ships. They do not have the resources." "You are a fool," Admiral Vex snapped, his fear manifesting as anger. "They just demonstrated that they do have the resources. They have been hiding them from us for decades." "Decades?" Xylos's voice cut through the argument. "Explain. How could a primitive species hide this much military power from our intelligence services?" Admiral Vex opened his mouth to respond, but it was Minister Tsar who answered. "Emperor, we have been watching the Terrans for 72 years. 72 years of observations, each one confirming our initial assessment. They are fractured. They are primitive. They are." "Those observations were false." Admiral Vex's voice was bitter. "The humans allowed us to see what we expected to see. They played the part of a primitive, divided species while building this fleet in secret." "And the attacks, you are certain?" "Empress, the outposts are reporting massive fleets of human vessels, the same design as the Resolute. They are using weapons that our shields cannot block, that our armor cannot withstand. The reports say it's a massacre." The holographic display flickered, showing images from one of the attacked outposts. The footage was chaotic, shaking violently as explosions tore through the structure. Human vessels swept through the defenses like they were nothing, their weapons leaving nothing but debris. Vthari soldiers could be seen running, screaming, dying. Xylos watched the footage with cold detachment. He had seen such images before, countless times, but the roles had always been reversed. It had always been Vthari vessels destroying the outposts of lesser species. "The humans are offering terms," Minister Tsar said, clutching his data tablet like a lifeline. "They are not demanding complete surrender. They are offering a way out." "A way out of what?" Xylos asked, his voice dangerously quiet. "A way out of the empire they have just spent 72 years preparing to destroy." Minister Tsar flinched. "Emperor, the humans are not demanding the dissolution of the empire. They are demanding the end of our expansionist policies. They are demanding the return of all territories we have claimed through military conquest. They are demanding that we undo everything we have built over the past 1,000 years, Xylos finished. They are demanding that we abandon our destiny. The species in the tiered rings were watching the exchange with growing alarm. Many of them had been conquered by the Vthari. They had suffered under the Empire's policies. And now they were seeing the unthinkable, the Empire's conquerors in turn being conquered. "Sire," Admiral Vex said, stepping forward, "we still have a fleet. The humans have not destroyed our main battle groups. We can still fight. We can still—" Admiral Vex's voice trailed off as the holographic display shifted again. More images, more destruction. The human fleet was everywhere, appearing from nowhere, striking with precision and devastating effectiveness. "You are proposing that we resist?" Xylos asked, his voice carrying a note of bitter amusement. "You are proposing that we fight a war against an enemy whose fleet outnumbers our own, whose weapons our technology cannot comprehend, whose capabilities we did not even know existed until this moment?" Sire, we cannot surrender to a primitive species. We cannot bow to the Terrans. They are not primitive, Xylos said, and his voice carried the weight of dawning realization. They were never primitive. They were always what they are now, a species that watched us, learned from us, and waited for the moment to strike. They did not defeat us. We defeated ourselves. We saw what we wanted to see. We underestimated them because we could not imagine anything beyond our own superiority. The chamber fell into a silence that was even heavier than before. The Emperor was admitting defeat. He was accepting the impossible. "The human captain, Voss," Xylos said. "Contact her again. I want to hear her terms directly. I want to look into her eyes and understand what we are dealing with." Minister Tsar's feathered hands flew over his data tablet. "Emperor, she is still on the channel. She is. She is waiting." "Then put her through." The holographic display shifted again, and Captain Alina Voss's face reappeared. Her expression was unchanged, calm, controlled, the expression of someone who knew they held all the cards. "Captain Voss," Xylos said, and his voice betrayed nothing of his inner turmoil. "You have demonstrated your military capabilities. You have shown that you can destroy our installations. But you have also offered terms. I wish to understand why." Captain Voss's eyes regarded him for a moment. "You have been watching us for 72 years, Emperor, but you have never truly understood us. You saw our wars, our divisions, our suffering. You saw a species that could not unite, that could not agree on anything. These things were true. These things are still true," Captain Voss agreed. "We are still divided. We still disagree about everything from politics to resource allocation to the best way to cook food. But we also understand something that your empire has forgotten." She leaned forward, and for a moment her calm expression cracked, revealing something deeper, something that burned. "We understand that we have only one home, one species, one chance. When your empire threatened to take that from us, we put aside our differences. We united, not because we love each other, not because we share the same ideology, but because we will not allow anyone to destroy what we have built." The species in the tiered rings were utterly silent. They had never heard anything like this. They had never heard a species speak of unity not as an ideal, but as a practical necessity. "Your empire has taken everything from countless species," Captain Voss continued. "You have destroyed civilizations. You have erased cultures. You have committed atrocities that would make humans weep. We have not forgotten this. We have recorded every single one of your crimes. We have documented every act of genocide, every act of oppression, every act of cruelty. I am certain you have." "We do not want to rule you," Captain Voss said. "We do not want to become you. We want to be left alone. We want to exist in peace. But we will not allow you to continue your expansion. We will not allow you to destroy another species, to take another world, to murder another child." "Those are noble words," Xylos said, and there was a hint of genuine respect in his voice. "But they are also words that have been spoken to us before, words that were followed by submission or extinction." "Then you have never met humans before," Captain Voss said, and her lips twitched in something that was almost a smile. "We do not submit, and we do not go extinct easily." "Your terms," Xylos said, ready to hear them at last. "Tell me what you want." Captain Voss's eyes hardened. "Your surrender, not a negotiation, not a temporary truce, a complete and unconditional surrender of all Vthari military forces, the dissolution of your expansionist policies, the return of all conquered territories to their original inhabitants, and the establishment of a new galactic order, one that does not recognize conquest as a legitimate basis for rule." Xylos's skin shifted through several shades as he processed the terms. They were extreme. They were humiliating. They were exactly what he would have demanded if their positions were reversed. "Those terms will be difficult to accept," he said finally. "Difficult?" Captain Voss repeated. "Emperor, I am going to tell you something that I hope you will understand. When you murdered those colonists 72 years ago, humanity learned a lesson. We learned that the galaxy does not care about our dreams. We learned that the only thing that matters is power. We learned that if we wanted to survive, we would have to become something that no one would ever underestimate again. She paused, and her voice dropped to a near whisper. We have become that something. We are not asking for your surrender because we want to rule you. We are asking for your surrender because we have already won. The question before you now is not whether you will survive. The question is whether your empire will survive with you, or whether we will have to create a new empire from its ashes. The threat was explicit, the message was clear. And the throne room, the center of Vthari power for 1,000 years, fell into a silence that was complete. The revelation of fire. Emperor Xylos stood before the holographic display, his 4 arms spread wide in a gesture of surrender that cost him more than any military defeat could have. The throne room's silence pressed in on him, a physical weight that threatened to crush his chest. Captain Voss, he said, his voice steady despite the turmoil within, you have made your position clear, but before I consider your terms, I need to understand something. How? How did you hide this from us? How did a species we have been watching for 72 years build a fleet that outmatches ours? Captain Voss was silent for a moment. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of a species that had endured and overcome. We didn't hide from you, Emperor. We hid in plain sight. Every ship we built was designed to look like civilian vessels. Every weapon we developed was tested in deep space, where your sensors could not reach. Every soldier we trained was disguised as a colonist or a worker. We didn't build our fleet in secret. We built it openly, and we let you see exactly what you wanted to see. Minister Tsar's feathered hands were shaking so badly that he could barely operate his data tablet. But our intelligence reports, our observations, we spent decades studying your species. You studied what we showed you, Captain Voss said. We allowed you to see the division, the chaos, the apparent weakness. We even manufactured conflicts to make ourselves look more fractured than we actually were. You never looked deeper because you never saw the need. We were primitive. We were beneath your attention. Why would you waste resources on a species that posed no threat? The species in the tiered rings were utterly silent, their attention fixed on the exchange. They were witnessing something that would be recorded in the histories of every species in the galaxy. The moment the Vthari Empire, the greatest power in known space, was humbled by a species they had dismissed as primitive. What about the technology? Admiral Vex demanded, his mechanical voice crackling with anger. Where did you get it? How did you develop weapons that our shields cannot stop, our armor cannot withstand? Where do you think we got it? Captain Voss asked, and the ghost of a smile appeared on her lips. You have a library, Admiral, a library of captured technologies from every species you have conquered. We accessed that library. Admiral Vex's armored form went rigid. Impossible. The library is heavily guarded. It is protected by the most advanced security systems in the galaxy. All of which have vulnerabilities, Captain Voss said. Vulnerabilities that we identified over 72 years. Vulnerabilities that we exploited decades ago. The knowledge you stole from the species you destroyed. We have it all. Every scrap of technology, every scientific breakthrough, every cultural achievement. You collected the knowledge of 1,000 worlds, and you kept it all in one place. Xylos felt his skin shift to a darker shade. The humans had not only built a fleet, they had stolen the technology of every species the Vthari had ever conquered. They had become the repository of 1,000 civilizations' worth of knowledge. Your empire is built on theft and conquest, Captain Voss continued. You never created anything. You only took, and when you took, you destroyed. You erased entire species from existence. You burned their worlds and scattered their ashes across the void. Xylos opened his mouth to respond, but Captain Voss continued, her voice rising. We watched you do this for 72 years. We watched you destroy colony after colony, species after species. And we swore that we would not be next. We swore that we would find a way to stop you. We swore that we would become something that no empire could ever destroy. You became us, Xylos said, and there was a note of something approaching respect in his voice. You became the thing you feared. Captain Voss's eyes flashed with something that might have been anger. No, we became the thing that would protect us. We did not become conquerors, we became survivors. There is a difference. Your terms, Xylos said, returning to the subject. You want us to surrender. You want us to dismantle our empire. You want us to return the territories we have conquered. What do you want for yourself? What do you plan to do with the power you have just demonstrated? Nothing, Captain Voss said. We do not want the galaxy. We do not want to rule over other species. We want to be left alone. We want to live in peace on our own worlds. We want to explore the stars without fearing the shadow of your empire. Xylos studied her face, searching for deception. He found none. She meant exactly what she said. Your species is remarkable, he said finally. In 1,000 years of conquest, I have never encountered a species like yours. You are determined. You are patient. You are willing to sacrifice everything for what you believe in, and you are not afraid to die. We are afraid to die, Captain Voss corrected. That is precisely why we are willing to fight. We are not heroically marching to our deaths. We are fighting to keep living. Xylos felt a strange emotion stir within him. It was something he had not felt in centuries. It was, he realized with a jolt, respect. This is difficult to accept, he said. I have spent 1,000 years building this empire. Every victory, every conquest has been a part of my legacy, and now you ask me to throw it all away. I am not asking you to throw it away, Captain Voss said. I am asking you to change. I am asking you to become something different, something that does not need conquest to survive. Xylos looked at the holographic display. The faces of the other species in the room were visible in the background, watching him with expressions that ranged from hope to fear to desperate anticipation. They were waiting for his decision. I need time to consider, he said. This is not a decision that can be made lightly. Captain Voss's eyes hardened. You have already used 43 minutes of the hour I gave you. I will give you the remaining 17 minutes to make your decision. After that, the Resolute's weapons will fire, and this throne room will cease to exist. Xylos's skin went pale. You would destroy the throne room while the representatives of every species in the galaxy are inside it. That is not my intention, Captain Voss said. My intention is to end the Vthari Empire. If you choose to sacrifice yourself and everyone in this room rather than accept surrender, that is your choice. But the Empire will not survive. Xylos looked around the throne room. He saw his advisors, his generals, his subjects. He saw the fear in their eyes. He saw the hope that some of them had begun to feel. He saw the future. And he realized that the decision had already been made. The only question was whether he would accept it gracefully or fight a losing battle. 17 minutes, Xylos said. I will need every one of them. The clock is ticking, Captain Voss said. I will be waiting for your answer. The holographic display went dark, leaving Xylos alone with the weight of 1,000 years of history. The price of arrogance. The throne room's silence stretched into something unbearable. 17 minutes. That was all the time Xylos had to make a decision that would determine the fate of his empire. Around him, advisors and generals jostled for his attention, each one offering a different strategy, a different path forward. We must fight, Admiral Vex insisted, his mechanical voice crackling with barely suppressed fury. We still have ships. We still have weapons. If we attack now while their fleet is concentrated, we can destroy them. Destroy them. Minister Tsar's crest was pressed flat against his skull. Admiral, they have already destroyed our outposts. They have demonstrated that our weapons cannot harm them. What possible advantage do we have? The advantage of surprise, Admiral Vex said. They expect us to negotiate. They expect us to surrender. They do not expect an attack. Xylos held up one hand. The arguing stopped. Both of you are missing the point. The question is not whether we can defeat the humans. The question is whether we want to continue existing as the species that destroys everything it touches. Admiral Vex's armored form went rigid. Emperor, the Vthari Empire has stood for 1,000 years. We have conquered 1,000 worlds. We have brought order to the galaxy. We have done what was necessary. Necessary, Xylos repeated, his voice carrying a note of bitter amusement. Was it necessary to destroy the Xylian civilization? Was it necessary to eradicate the Plorians? Was it necessary to burn the quasar worlds? Admiral Vex's mechanical voice faltered. Those species they were threats. They were challenges to our authority. Were they? Xylos asked. The Xylians were peaceful. They had no military. They welcomed us with open arms. And we killed them all because their world had resources we wanted. The species in the tiered rings shifted uncomfortably. Many of them remembered the Xylians. Many of them had been present when the Empire destroyed them. Emperor Minister Tisar said softly, "The humans are offering us a way out. They are offering us a chance to change, to become something different. Is that not worth considering?" Xylos looked at the holographic display. The human fleet was still there, still waiting, still holding its weapons trained on the throne room. He could see the Resolute clearly, its hull scarred with the marks of age and conflict. He could see the weapons ports glowing with terrible light. And he could see the faces of the humans, who had been watching for 72 years. "I have spent 1,000 years building this empire," Xylos said, and his voice was quiet, almost contemplative. "I have destroyed civilizations. I have erased cultures. I have committed atrocities that would make the galaxy weep. And I did it all because I believed I was right. I believed that the Vthari Empire was the natural order of things, that we were destined to rule." Xylos looked around the throne room. He saw the representatives of the conquered species, their eyes filled with hope and fear. He saw his own species, his own people, the descendants of the warriors who had built this empire. And he saw the humans, waiting for his answer. 72 years ago, we killed a human colony," Xylos said. "We murdered them because they were in our way. We took their genetic material and stored it in our libraries. We forgot about them. We moved on to the next conquest." Admiral Vex's mechanical voice was barely a whisper. "Emperor, that is the way of things. That is how empires are built." "No," Xylos said. "That is how empires are destroyed. We thought we were invincible. We thought we were superior. We thought that no one could ever challenge us. And we were wrong." He turned to face the holographic display. "Captain Voss, I am ready to give you my answer." The display flickered and Captain Voss's face appeared. She looked at him, her expression unreadable. "I am listening." "I will accept your terms," Xylos said. "The Vthari Empire will surrender to the United Human Worlds. All conquered territories will be returned to their original inhabitants. All Vthari military forces will stand down. All expansionist policies will be terminated." The throne room erupted into chaos. Some species cheered, others wept. Admiral Vex stared at Xylos with something that might have been hatred. "Emperor, you cannot do this," Admiral Vex said. "You are throwing away everything we have built." "I am salvaging what I can," Xylos replied. "The Empire is going to change, whether we like it or not. The only question is whether we will change willingly or be destroyed." Captain Voss nodded slowly. "Your decision is wise. There will be conditions. The transition will not be easy, but you have chosen the path that will save your species." "I did not choose to save my species," Xylos said. "I chose to save the galaxy." Captain Voss's eyes met his. For a moment, Xylos saw something in them, something that might have been pity, something that might have been understanding. "Emperor," Captain Voss said, "you have made the right choice, and in time I believe you will realize that this was not a defeat. It was an opportunity to become something better." Xylos felt something shift within him. It was a feeling he had not experienced in centuries. It was hope. "We have much to discuss," he said. "The transition will be complex. There will be many obstacles, but I am willing to work with you. I am willing to change." Captain Voss nodded. "Then let us begin. The galaxy is about to change, and we are going to be the ones who change it." The holographic display went dark, and the throne room fell into a silence that was filled with the weight of history. The galaxy would never be the same. The weight of history. The holographic display flickered back to life, and Captain Voss's face appeared once more. The expression on her face was different now, softer, more thoughtful. The battle was over. The victory was won. Now came the hard part. "Emperor," she said, her voice carrying a tone that was almost gentle, "before we begin the transition, I would like to show you something. A record of what your empire has done to humanity. A record of what we endured while you thought we were weak." Xylos felt a chill run through him. A record. 72 years of history, Captain Voss said. 72 years of watching our colonies burn, of watching our people die, of watching your empire grow stronger while we grew desperate. The holographic display shifted, showing images of human colonies that had been destroyed by Vthari forces. The images were horrific: buildings collapsing, people running, screams echoing in the darkness. Xylos watched with growing horror. "This is the colony you destroyed," Captain Voss said. "New Hope. It was a peaceful colony, families, children, people who wanted nothing more than to live their lives in peace." The images shifted, showing human soldiers fighting against impossible odds. They were outnumbered, outgunned, outclassed, but they fought anyway. They fought because they had no choice. "You cannot show this," Admiral Vex said, his mechanical voice cracking. "This is propaganda, this is." "This is history," Captain Voss said. "This is what your empire did to us. This is what you have been doing to species across the galaxy for 1,000 years." The images continued. Human scientists working in secret, developing weapons that would one day be used against the Vthari. Human engineers building ships in hidden shipyards. Human leaders making impossible decisions, sacrificing thousands to save millions. "Your empire created us," Captain Voss said. "You created the thing that is about to destroy you. You taught us that the galaxy is a cruel place. You taught us that the only way to survive is to be cruel in return." Xylos felt his skin shift to a pale shade. The images were relentless, showing the full scope of human suffering and resilience. They showed a species that had been pushed to the brink and had refused to break. "How did you survive?" Xylos asked, his voice barely a whisper. "How did you endure all of this?" Captain Voss's eyes met his. "Because we had to, because giving up was not an option, because the alternative was extinction." The images shifted, showing the moment of revelation. The moment when the human fleet emerged from Cloak and the galaxy learned the truth. "Your empire is built on the suffering of others," Captain Voss said. "Your power is stolen, your glory is borrowed, and now you are paying the price for your arrogance." Xylos looked around the throne room. The representatives of the conquered species were watching the images with expressions of horror and recognition. They had seen similar things. They had endured similar suffering. "Your empire is a machine that grinds up civilizations," Captain Voss said. "And we are the wrench that you threw into that machine. We are the thing that stops the gears. We are the thing that ends the cycle of conquest and cruelty." The images stopped, and the holographic display showed only Captain Voss's face. Her eyes were hard, but there was something else in them now, something that might have been sorrow. "We are not your executioners," she said. "We are your judges, and we have found you guilty." Xylos felt the weight of her words. "What happens now?" "Now we rebuild," Captain Voss said. "We rebuild the galaxy. We rebuild your empire. We rebuild the trust that your empire destroyed." The trust. Trust between species, trust between civilizations, trust that has been destroyed by 1,000 years of conquest. Captain Voss paused. "It will not be easy, it will be painful, but it is necessary." Xylos nodded slowly. "I understand." "Then let us begin," Captain Voss said. "Let us begin the work of rebuilding what you destroyed." The holographic display went dark, and the throne room fell into a silence that was filled with the weight of history. The galaxy would never be the same. The Emperor's choice. The holographic display flickered, and Captain Voss's face appeared once more. Her expression was unreadable, but her eyes held a depth of emotion that spoke of centuries of pain and determination. "Emperor," she said, her voice quiet but firm, "I have shown you what your empire has done. Now I will show you what we are offering. It is a choice, Emperor. The most important choice you will ever make." Xylos leaned forward on his throne. "Tell me what you are offering." Captain Voss's face shifted, and for a moment she looked almost vulnerable. "We are offering you a new beginning, a chance to be something different, a chance to build a galaxy where species do not need to fear each other." "Fear is a natural part of the galaxy," Xylos said. "Fear of the unknown, fear of the powerful." "Your empire turned fear into a weapon," Captain Voss said. "You used it to control, to dominate, to destroy." She paused. "We are offering you a chance to use fear differently, to use it to protect, to use it to build, to use it to create something that will last beyond your empire." Xylos felt a strange sensation. It was something he had not felt in centuries. It was hope. "What would this new galaxy look like?" he asked. Captain Voss's face softened. "It would be a galaxy where species live in peace, where conflict is resolved through diplomacy, not war, where the strong protect the weak rather than exploiting them." "That is an idealistic dream," Admiral Vex said, his mechanical voice dripping with contempt. "The galaxy does not work that way. It has never worked that way." "The galaxy works the way we make it work," Captain Voss said. "Your empire made it work through cruelty. We can make it work through cooperation." Admiral Vex opened his mouth to respond, but Xylos held up a hand. "Enough, Admiral. I want to hear what the captain is offering." Captain Voss nodded. "We are offering you a place in the new order, Emperor. You will not be the ruler of the galaxy, but you will be a respected member of the galactic community. You will have influence. You will have power, but you will use that power differently." Xylos considered her words. It was a difficult choice. To give up the empire he had spent 1,000 years building, to admit that everything he had done had been wrong. "It will not be easy," Captain Voss said. "Change never is, but it is necessary. Your empire must change, Emperor, or it must die." Xylos felt a weight settle on his shoulders, the weight of 1,000 years of history, the weight of his choices. "I will accept your terms," he said finally. "I will change. I will become something different. I will lead my people into a new era." Captain Voss's face broke into a smile. It was the first time Xylos had seen her smile. It was a genuine smile, filled with warmth and hope. "Thank you," she said. "Thank you for making the right choice." Xylos nodded. "Now tell me what happens next." Captain Voss's expression grew serious again. "Next, we begin the work of rebuilding. It will not be easy, it will be painful, but it is necessary, and we will do it together." The holographic display flickered, showing images of human and Vthari engineers working side by side, images of ships being repaired, images of cities being rebuilt. "This is our future," Captain Voss said. "This is what we are building. A galaxy where cooperation is the rule, not the exception. A galaxy where hope triumphs over fear." Xylos looked at the images. For the first time in centuries, he felt something that he had forgotten. It was a feeling of purpose, a feeling of hope. "Thank you," he said. "Thank you for giving us a chance." Captain Voss nodded. "The chance is yours to take, Emperor. Use it wisely." The holographic display went dark, and the throne room fell into a silence that was filled with the weight of hope. The galaxy would never be the same. The new dawn. The holographic display flickered to life for the final time. Captain Voss's face appeared, her expression one of quiet satisfaction. The Resolute still held its position, a silent guardian of the new order that was being born. "Emperor," she said, her voice carrying across the throne room, "the transition is complete. The Vthari Empire has been dissolved. The conquered territories have been returned to their original inhabitants. Your military forces have stood down. The new galactic order is in place." Xylos sat on his throne, but it no longer felt like a throne. It felt like a chair, a comfortable chair, but a chair nonetheless. He had abdicated his absolute power. He had become a symbol of something new. "Thank you," he said. "Thank you for your guidance. Thank you for your patience." Captain Voss nodded. "It was not easy. There were moments when I doubted we would succeed. But you showed courage, Emperor. You showed strength. You showed that you were willing to change." The species in the tiered rings were watching the exchange with expressions of hope. The war was over. The old order was gone. A new era was beginning. "What happens now?" Xylos asked. "What does the future hold?" Captain Voss's face softened. "The future holds whatever we make of it, Emperor. We have the opportunity to build something new, something better, something that will last beyond our lifetimes." "The galaxy will change," Xylos said. "It will take time, it will take effort, but we can do it." Captain Voss nodded. "We can do it together." The holographic display flickered, showing images of the future. Images of human and Vthari engineers working side by side. Images of former enemies becoming friends. Images of worlds that had been destroyed being rebuilt. "This is the future we are building," Captain Voss said. "A future where hope triumphs over fear. A future where cooperation is the rule, not the exception. A future where the galaxy is a place of peace and prosperity." Xylos felt a warmth spread through him. It was a feeling he had not experienced in centuries. It was a feeling of hope. "Thank you," he said. "Thank you for believing in us." Captain Voss's face broke into a smile. "We always believed in you, Emperor. We just had to help you believe in yourselves." The holographic display went dark, and the Resolute began to move. The human fleet turned, its weapons ports dimming as it prepared to depart. Xylos watched from the throne room as the Resolute and its escort disappeared into the void. The galaxy had changed. The Vthari Empire was gone. A new order was rising from the ashes. "We will rebuild," Xylos said, his voice carrying across the throne room. "We will build something better, something that will last beyond our lifetimes, something that will make the galaxy a better place." The species in the tiered rings cheered. It was a sound of hope, a sound of joy, a sound of new beginnings. The galaxy would never be the same, but it would be better. It would be a galaxy of hope, of cooperation, of peace. And it all began with the decision of one emperor to change. The end.